Welcome to Travel Tales, a mini-series within Distress to Joyful Bailey's Way podcast. I'm your host, Bailey Raber, here to travel the world with you. In each episode, you'll hear firsthand how my travel experiences have gone, both within the United States and abroad. Together, we'll discover new cultures, learn about a variety of new places for you to go out and explore, bring light to how I navigate my bipolar disorder while traveling, and most importantly, we'll have fun. You'll leave each episode stocked full of exciting new ideas, interesting information, and feeling like it's time to hop on a plane. So come on, friends, let's start exploring. Hello, friends. Welcome back to another day in Paris. So this is day 2 of the trip, which I have titled A Thrilling Adventure Conquering the Eiffel Tower in Paris. So I think you might kind of know where we're going with this. So this day did not go as planned whatsoever. We accidentally slept in that morning until 11 a.m. and decided just to take our time getting ready for the day. So due to this, we didn't end up leaving Viva's apartment until almost 1 p.m., which surprisingly, I'm very pleased with our decision to take the day as it comes instead of just choosing to rush and try to stick with the agenda that I had originally prepared for the day. Embracing spontaneity. Oh my God, I cannot say this word. Embracing spontaneity led to an incredible first full day experience in Paris. So fun fact, every time we go on a big trip, I usually make a whole ass agenda. Like I write everything out, I plan everything, all the big things, right? Like, oh, we're going to go here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And a lot of that is because Monish, my husband, he actually has an Indian visa, he has an Indian passport. And so when you have an Indian passport, a lot of times you have to get travel visas to go to other countries. Whereas those of us with American passports, we are very, very privileged and we rarely need a travel visa to go anywhere. Ironically, of the 8 countries I've been to so far, the only country I've ever needed a travel visa for India. So because he has to get a visa to travel a lot of places, they actually do require a written out itinerary. And so because I love making itineraries, it kind of works out well. I usually make it for him and I plan out a lot of the stuff we're doing anyways. He does give his input, obviously, but he's so go with the flow. It just makes it easy that I'm like, I want to do this, and this is all in this area. So we'll conquer all of this and this day. So hear me out, because this day of the trip specifically, all of that went to shit. Literally all of it. We didn't do anything that was previously planned. But like I said, it turned out to be amazing. So while we were getting ready for the day ahead, Viva prepared a wonderful breakfast spread for us to enjoy, and I was able to spend a lot of time chatting with her. So as I mentioned in the last episode, Paris trip day 1, part 2. Yes, part 2. Viva is one of Monish's cousins who was born and raised in Paris. So despite being a few years older than us, she exudes the vibe of the ultimate cool auntie that everybody loves to spend time with. And this marked the beginning of our daily morning conversations with Viva about life, which quickly became something that I eagerly anticipated each day. And I'm going to throw in another little fun fact. Moni and I, we're going back to Europe this summer. We're going to hit up Germany and the Netherlands yet again. And Viva's going to join us in Amsterdam. And I am so excited. I love spending time with her. She is just so fun and wise and non-judgmental. And like I said, she's got like the cool auntie vibes. Even though she's clearly not our auntie. She is an auntie to kids, her nieces and nephews. So boom. There we go. So upon leaving for an adventurous day in the city center, we made a pit stop at a local general store nearby to get some Xerox copies of our IDs made. Okay, so it might sound a little bit odd, but trust me, these were essential for snagging our week-long metro passes. So as it turns out, in Paris, they are pretty damn serious about putting your photo on your Metro card to keep it safe from sneaky swipers and to keep you from being able to borrow your friend's Metro card. So later on during our trip, we actually learned that the police will do random checks at different metro stations throughout the city just whenever the fuck they feel like it. And they'll ask to see your Metro card and they'll look at the photo on the back to confirm that that's you. So this was really interesting. It happened to us more than once, at least twice, possibly a little bit more. But it was very, very interesting to experience. And it was also kind of weird to like put my photo on that. So again, like I said, we got a week-long Metro card. And it's typically, if it's more than like a day is when it needs your photo. I don't remember. I mean, Moni's the one who purchased these cards for us. I know that we have a week-long. There's probably a month-long one that's even, cheaper, that kind of stuff. I know getting a whole week-long was, I think, like 35 USD is what it cost us. Whereas if we were to buy, a single day, all day, or just like single trips, it would have been way more expensive in the long run. Because we used the Metro like crazy, y'all. It was so easy and convenient and cheap. And we took these pieces of paper. We literally made copies of our driver's license. We had to cut around our photo, which I think the guy had scissors at the general store that he let us use. I can't remember. Either that or we did the fold, lick, and tear method like you would do in elementary school or whatever. And then on the back of the Metro card, there's actually a spot where you peel off this little film, and it's sticky on the card. So you just pop your photo right there. So you don't need glue or anything like that, but you do need a paper version of your ID. And if you literally just take your ID and scan it on the copier, that is the size that will fit there. So just a little tip, if you are planning to go to Paris anytime soon, especially because, the Olympics are going to be there. I'm sure some of y'all are going to head out that way. Take a photocopy of your driver's license. Just print it out. Just black and white is totally fine from your copier at home. And just keep that on your person so when you go to buy your Metro card, you already have it handy. Because going to the general store, the dude didn't speak English and he only spoke French, which is, considerable considering we were in Paris. But we didn't speak French. And so it was kind of interesting to have to get this back and forth with him to get what we needed. What's interesting though is there was Bollywood music playing in that store. So we kind of assumed he would speak, something that Moni could speak, but he didn't speak Hindi or Gujarati. I think he was from South India. Anyways, that was just a little bit of that and just some tips in case you plan to go to Paris anytime soon. Highly recommend just doing that. And also, just taking the fucking Metro, y'all. It's cheap. It's easy. Just don't do it past 11 p.m. and you'll be fine. So once we grabbed our Metro cards and got all of those situated, we jumped on the line, heading straight to the heart of Paris, ready to kick off our first grand adventure. So first stop was lunch, because the girl is always hungry. We settled on dining at Le Petit Pont, a charming restaurant that caught our eye as we strolled past with its inviting ambiance and cozy atmosphere. So I enjoyed the veggie crepe while Moni, my husband, selected the cheese omelet. This marked a significant moment in our journey as I discovered within this cafe that the majority of cafes and restaurants throughout Paris have their restaurants tucked away downstairs. So I had remembered, and I didn't remember this until we actually went into this cafe, but long ago, my aunt, who is now no longer my aunt, long story, but my aunt and my uncle, they used to go to Paris a lot. My uncle was fluent in French. He had friends who lived in Paris, so they would go there quite often. And I remember as a little girl, my aunt telling me about Paris and saying that the bathrooms were downstairs. I did not remember that until we were at the restaurant, at this cafe, and I asked, where's the restroom? And they told me, and it was down the stairs. And I was like, oh my God, I now randomly remember this from being a kid and my aunt telling me this, but isn't that weird? Yeah, it's crazy how memories will pop up at random times like that. So, by the time we finished enjoying our lunch, a gentle rain began to cloak the bustling streets, which was a super bummer for me because I despise rain. So, we had originally decided to go explore Saint-Chapelle, Saint-Chapelle, following our meal, but we quickly changed our minds as we were afraid we might be standing in a long line in the rain, waiting to be able to enter the beautiful chapel. So instead, we switched gears and we hopped on the metro line that would take us to Musée Yves Saint Laurent. Yes. I'm so excited to tell you all about this. So after exiting the mouth of the metro, which I'd mentioned in last episode is just the French phrase, which I just spoke in English, not the French version, but it's what they call the entrance to the metro. That's just their little nickname for it. So after we exited that, we were astonished to find the most incredible view of the Eiffel Tower. Oh my God, y'all. Like, can you imagine just, you hop on a random metro trying to get to an area of town. This is your first day in the daylight of Paris. Granted, we didn't really get to see much of the city in the day before this. We pop out, we round the corner, and boom! There is the Eiffel Tower towering above the Seine River, and we're just like, oh my God, like, what are the odds we just hopped on to this? Like, we popped over and found this. It was just so magical to do that. So thankfully, by this point, the rain had let up, and Moni had so much fun taking photos of me like he does. He loves to take my photo. I love to be his subject. It's a great balance between our relationship. So while we were there, we actually had noticed across the street. So let me back up a little bit. We had to cross the street in order to get to this little bridge area that had like the best angles. Because of course we're going to find the best angles, duh. So while we're over there, we noticed on the other side of the street that we had just come from that there was this like monument. We're like, what is that? So we walk on over there to see what it is, and we realize, holy shit, this is the tunnel where Princess Diana had that car crash in 97 and died. Again, what are the odds? We stumbled upon this. Like, I wasn't looking for this, but I'm so glad we found it because Princess Diana is the only royal that I've ever truly loved besides her son, Prince Harry. I like him a lot too, even though he's not a prince anymore. We're not going to get on that. But Diana was the people's princess, and I think that she was just what the royal family needed to kind of change some things and change the world. She did some amazing things. And so we found this, and I was like, oh, holy shit, like, what are the odds? The monument was super cool. It kind of looked like the torch from the Statue of Liberty, which, if you know anything about the history of the Statue of Liberty, you'll know that that was a gift from France to the United States. So the Statue of Liberty that is in New York City, they have a smaller version of that in France. They made a larger one and sent it over here to us. Unfortunately, we didn't make it to that in Paris, which, I mean, we'll go back one day. We'll hit it up then. But that's what this monument looks like. It looked like the torch from the Statue of Liberty. So at first glance, I thought, oh, is this part of that? And then we get to it, and I'm like, oh, no, this is for Princess Diana. There were fresh flowers upon it, so people must put them there on a regular basis. There was an inscription. There was her photo. There were some really nice things written there. And that was, again, just really cool to be able to stumble upon. So if you've seen season 6 of The Crown that recently came out, you might remember seeing this exact bridge being portrayed in that series. So yeah, all that, really cool. So at this point, we were beginning to feel a little bit low on energy, and so we decided to grab a pastry as a midday snack before continuing on with our afternoon spontaneous plans. So luckily for us, La Patisserie Cyril Lignac, which I probably pronounced wrong, was located on the path towards the Yves Saint Laurent Museum. So upon walking into the patisserie, we were greeted cheerfully by the employees with a warm welcome. They made us feel right at home, and they happily helped us translate the names of the pastries as needed. So Moni ended up settling on a plain, boring croissant, while I chose a more adventurous option, being the Black Forest pastry, which I was beyond satisfied with my decision, and so was Moni, as I obviously shared with him. I do want to add something extra about this particular part of the day. So, and this you won't find in the article. So, if you're reading the article or finding this YouTube video or this podcast episode from the article, just know that I do add in extra bits, and this is one of them. I've always heard the myth, let me tell you, it's often a myth that the French people hate Americans, that they hate us. And that has been a very long time myth that has just been spewed around. And I don't believe that the French hate Americans. I think that they hate specific types of attitudes that are portrayed from tourists and foreigners, and a lot of those attitudes might be coming from Americans. I think that might be the problem. Because let me just tell you, the majority of the French people that we interacted with that were strangers, they fucking loved us. Like, walking into this store, these people were so kind and lovely, and I felt bad that I couldn't speak any French. Well, excuse me, I used the little French I knew, but I couldn't do more than that, but I did my best. And they were so friendly and so nice and so helpful and didn't mind using their English whatsoever. And that was shocking because I'd always had this notion that, you know, the French people hate Americans, and I have an American accent. I know I do. When I go to other countries, I know I have an American accent. So it was very, very interesting to like see the opposite of what I've been told my whole life. So I really do think it's the attitude type thing, because I talked with one of Moni's other cousins' wives, and she was saying that in France, they are kind of taught to keep your emotions to yourself. Don't not act out, but like just keep to yourself when you're in public. Don't make a scene. Don't be too loud. Don't be obnoxious. And I think that us Americans, we tend to do that. And I think that's why we are viewed a certain way. But I don't think it's everybody. I don't think that this goes for everybody. So, just want to throw that out there. That's my personal opinion after having visited Paris, France as an American. So now that our hunger was satisfied, we dove into an exciting adventure at Musée Yves Saint Laurent for a couple of hours. And it was raining at this point, so it was actually kind of perfect. It was a great way to get out of the rain. And this was actually a much more exciting adventure for me than it was for Moni, but he was a great sport, and he just enjoyed taking photos of me while I just reveled in all the beauty that was within this museum. So it's a bit embarrassing for me to confess, especially because I am a fashion design student, but I really didn't know much about this legendary designer until I stepped foot in the museum. I was captivated to find out that Yves Saint Laurent achieved many of the same milestones that I aspire to reach in my own fashion career. So since then, I've added him to my list of inspirational designers alongside Gabrielle Coco Chanel, Halston, and Gianni Versace. So that said, I want to point out that this museum is actually his old studio in Paris. Like, this is where he used to work. So while we were there, you know, you kind of go in a specific, like a little circle around, and they only let you in certain parts, of course. I think it was multiple floors. We had to definitely go upstairs after we entered, but I don't think there was much downstairs that we could see. I think it was mainly just the one floor we went up to. And we got to see his workspace, y'all. Like his actual desk where he used to sit down and, you know, sketch out his designs and pull different samples and buttons and all kinds of shit to like put together and check things out. And his workspace, his desk. And it was messy as fuck, which felt like a massive relief because I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly how my workspace looks. It's a goddamn disaster. Like a tornado just whooshed through here. So that was really cool to see like a luxury designer's workspace, and it looked just like mine, like a total fucking train wreck. So yeah, I mean that was really cool. And it was really cool to just be in the space where all of his ideas must have been concocted. And there was a video we got to watch. So we watched it twice because the first time it was in French. So then we realized, oh, the second round is in English. So we stayed and watched the second round. But it was the story of his life, basically. And it was super, super amazing to just see all that he accomplished and how he grew as a successful designer and kind of understanding, okay, I kind of see where he did these things to elevate himself to the next level and all of these milestones. And it kind of gave me some inspiration and some ideas of like, okay, what do I need to do to achieve these things too? So yeah, it was super great. And it was really cool to find out that there is a second Yves Saint Laurent Museum, which is located in Marrakesh, Morocco, because he used to spend a lot of time there and he got a lot of inspiration for his fashion lines from Moroccan culture. So they have erected a museum there, and I think he actually also used to have a house there that now you can maybe rent, or there's something really special about the home that he used to have there. I don't know what specifically, so Google it and don't hold me to anything. Or if you're on YouTube, drop a freaking comment and tell me. I would love to know more. But yeah, so Marrakesh, Morocco, and this additional Yves Saint Laurent Museum have both been added to my travel bucket list at this point. So cool. So, as you might expect, exploring this exquisite museum worked up our appetites. Surprise, surprise. So, we opted for a snack and a coffee break before heading on to our next adventure. We found an Italian restaurant nearby where we enjoyed a cheese platter, french fries, and a couple cappuccinos before making an impromptu decision to go explore the Eiffel Tower. Boom! I told you we'd get there. So while we were sitting in this cafe, we were trying to figure out what was next, and we were thinking, let's go do a boat tour on the Seine River, which I am probably pronouncing that river wrong. I've heard Seine and I've heard Seine, so I'm going to go with Seine until somebody corrects me. But that we were thinking to do, although it was past 6:30 at that point, and we realized we were not going to make it to the docks in time for the last boat to leave. And so we were like, screw it, the sun's going to be setting soon anyways. I'd rather do this boat tour during the daytime. So let's just wait and we'll do it another day. So let's go check out the Eiffel Tower instead, which originally I had thought we would do on our very first day. So like the night before. So I was super pumped to do this. Like I was so excited. And this ended up being such a great idea. So when we arrived at the base of the enormous Iron Lady, which is her nickname, her nickname being the Eiffel Tower is her, we found a massive crowd, mostly over in the line for the tickets that took you all the way up the Eiffel Tower via a lift. Now in Europe, elevators are called lifts, so I'm going to continue to call it a lift because that is what they call it, but just know I'm speaking about an elevator while doing so. Y'all, this line was insane. It was like rap, boom. And we stood there for a few minutes, and I realized, I looked at him, and I was like, we're going to be in this line for at least an hour, if not two. Because also, you have to take into mind that we have to stand in line to buy these tickets, and then we have to go stand in line to go up the lift, and the lift is limited to, maybe it was like 20 to 25 people. It really wasn't a lot of people, but think about this. If there's somebody in a wheelchair, then that's going to take up more space and it's even less people. So we would have been in line forever. Obviously, we didn't do that. Of course, you can tell that's where I'm going with this. So I looked behind us and saw the line for the staircase. So the staircase meant that you would have to take the stairs up to the second floor, which in Europe, they have the ground floor, first floor, second floor, third, and so on. In the US, we only have first floor, second floor, third floor. So when I say the second floor, I really am talking about like a third floor. That's what I mean by that. So you have to walk up a set of stairs to get to the first floor, and then another set of stairs to get the second floor. But to get to the very, very top, you're no longer allowed to use the stairs. Those have been deemed unsafe, and so you do have to take a lift from the second floor all the way to the tippy top, which again, those are limited, so you have to wait in line to be able to get on one. But that's included in your ticket. So if you pay for it. I think I saw online that there's another option where you can just get up to the second floor and you don't pay to go to the top. Obviously, we were going to the top, so we paid to do that too. But that line, guys, had nobody in it. We literally walked straight up to the ticket attendant, paid our money, which was €7 cheaper per person. So we saved 14 euros deciding to do this. And we started trudging up those steps. We are two able-bodied, very active, exercise freak people. I told Moni, there is no reason for us not to take these stairs. Plus, if you think about it, how many people can say that they have climbed the stairs in the Eiffel Tower? Not very many, considering how full the line for the lift was. So while it was cold and windy walking up the 674 steps to the second floor, which is an exact number, I found that online, Google it yourself, it was absolutely worth it. Oh, man. So it was cold. It was windy and it was cold. It was March. It was cold. And I felt a little, scared being on the stairs, to be honest, because it was windy. So I kept feeling like I was going to fall, which was dumb. Because all of the staircases were just enclosed with a giant, cage. So you couldn't even fall off of it if you wanted to. You could fall down a flight or two. But it was literally, up and then a platform and then up and then a platform. So, there's zigzag staircases. It's not, one giant-ass case. So, when we got to the first floor, we noticed that it contained a bunch of restaurants and some gift shops, as well as an area where you could just sit down and relax, which is what we did for a little bit to catch our breath. When we got to the second floor, that one contained some more shops. When we got to the second floor, that one contains more shops, as well as a Michelin star restaurant called Jules Verne, which we did not eat at because it was really expensive, and obviously we were not going to do that. That's a fancy-ass restaurant. That's a propose to your wife, propose to your girlfriend type restaurant, or special occasion, or you're just rich and have money to blow, which we were none of those at that time. So then we decided, okay, well, there's not much going on here. We kind of browsed the gift shops a little bit, which were very expensive. So tip, if you are going to Paris, don't buy anything from the Eiffel Tower gift shop. Just don't do it. All of the stuff you will find in that gift shop, you can also find in random souvenir and gift shops all throughout the streets of Paris for half, if not cheaper, the price. So then we decided we were going to go ahead and go in the lift up to the very top, which I hated. I hated that so much. I'm not usually afraid of heights. I think the wind was really just freaking me out. So we got to view the entire city from the top of the Eiffel Tower at night, and it was so beautiful and so magical. And I'm actually really glad that we did that at nighttime, because I think during the day it would have been cool, but it probably would have been a little bit boring, because that scape, with all of the sparkling lights of the city. Paris is known as a magical city, and the sparkling lights everywhere just made it feel so magical. So, after we'd spent a considerable amount of time wandering around the Eiffel Tower, chilling, just taking in the views, we decided that we were going to leave and go eat some dinner. Surprise, surprise, we're eating more food. So we made our way to a nearby bus stop, and when we got there, we realized that this bus stop was in the perfect position to view the twinkling lights of the tower. So we decided to skip the first two buses that came through because the magical sparkle only happens at the top of every hour, and it was almost 9 p.m. So we're like, fuck the bus, we'll catch the one after this. We've got to catch this view. So if you're on YouTube, just wait until the end of this video and you will see the magical sparkles. If you're not on YouTube, If you're on your favorite podcast listening platform, just click on photos and videos. There's a link, and that's going to take you to a short little 2-3 minute YouTube video that's going to show you all of the visuals from this beautiful, beautiful trip. So I hope you enjoy. I loved it so much. So when we finally got on the bus, it took us to a quieter, less touristy neighborhood where we stumbled upon Maison Blanche, which was a cozy bistro nestled along a quaint side street lined with diverse culinary options. And we chose French because there was Lebanese, Indian, all kinds of shit. And we're like, nah, we're in Paris, we're going to eat French food. So here we got to indulge in fondue, which was an exciting experience for me because I used to work at the Melting Pot, which is an Americanized fondue chain. So this experience was much different than the American version that I'm used to, but it was delicious nonetheless. The delectable melted cheese was served with breads and boiled potatoes. And the boiled potatoes was a new concept for me, but it was so good. Like, guys, salted, you put some salt on those potatoes, you cover it in cheese. Like, who doesn't love cheese and potatoes? Like, come on. So once we finished our dinner, we realized that the restaurant only accepted cash, not credit cards. So Moni had to dash off to find a nearby ATM so we could pay for our meal because we didn't have cash on us. And he left me behind while he did that. I was like the collateral, right? So while he was gone, a man playing a ukulele and singing some tunes walked into the restaurant, and he began asking patrons at each table where they were from. And when you would tell him where you were from, he would then start to sing a tune. And people like this, and they're all over Paris, but they do this in order to kind of like get tips and get money. It's kind of like, what do they call them? Peddlers? There's a term for them, but you know, people who stand on the street and play their instruments for money, it's kind of the same thing, except they come into the restaurant. And I don't think all restaurants allow it, so I think it's kind of, they just have to build up a rapport. So he walked over to the table next to where we were sitting and asked them, and they said that they were from India. And so the man proceeded to sing a song to them in Hindi, which caused that entire table to erupt in excitement because they were super surprised that this French man was singing to them in Hindi, which I was shocked too. I looked over and I'm like, what? But fun fact that I did not list on the article, these Indians were actually living in the U.S., and I know that for a fact because their English was very U.S. English. You can tell the difference on where people are from with their English. It's been really fun to do that in other countries to kind of like hear the accents. They had American accents, and the real tip that gave it away was when they tipped the guy in cash, they pulled out US dollars. So I saw like a $5 bill come out with, you know, Abe Lincoln on it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, they're Americans. So he came over to my table next where I was sitting by myself, still waiting for Monish to come back. And when he came by, I said, Kya aap Hindi bolte hain? Which means, do you speak Hindi? And at that point, the table again erupted in more excitement because they're like, what is going on? They are in Paris, France, and this French dude is speaking Hindi. This random white girl by herself next to us is speaking Hindi. Like, what the fuck is going on in Paris? So that was so much fun to me. And when Moni came back, I was so excited to tell him. And I told him, I'm glad you weren't sitting here because if you would have been here, you look like you could be Indian. He looks like he could be a lot of things, to be honest, but he looks like he could be Indian. So they would make that correlation, like, oh, she knows Hindi because she's with this Indian dude. But when I was by myself and I just popped out some Hindi with my American accent, it like really threw these people off. So they started asking me some questions, and I told them about Moni and stuff, and it was just so much fun. And I love getting reactions out of people, so you can only imagine, like, how much I just reveled in that. Just the reactions from these guys. It was so much fun. So, after this, you know, reliving the experience with Moni, we paid our bill, and we decided that we needed to delight in some dessert before heading home for the night. So, we found ourselves at Le Crème de Paris, where Moni enjoyed his favorite, which is an Oreo shake, and I had a delicious Nutella crepe, which, of course, when in Paris, you've got to eat fucking Nutella. So that was just such a sweet way to end a glorious day in Paris. The end. The end of this day. And real quick, for those of y'all on YouTube, I have this magnet to show you guys that we bought. Every time we go to a new country, we collect a magnet. That's like the big thing that we bring home. We've also started bringing home a piece of art, which I showed one of them recently. I'll show the other one in one of the upcoming episodes. But what I love about this magnet is it has the Sacred Heart Cathedral, which I don't know how to pronounce that in French, so I'm not even going to try. It's got the Eiffel Tower. It's got Notre Dame. It's got Arc de Triomphe. It's got the Seine River. It's got a bridge over the river. It says Paris, La Tour Eiffel, which is the Eiffel Tower, which, whatever. It's got the French flag on it. And look at that beautiful pink sky, because it's a sunset. It's a pink sky. It's all the things. I saw this magnet, and I'm like, that's the one. Because Moni and I, we have to agree on the magnet, and he was a good sport and just kind of let me pick this one. But I always like to find a magnet that kind of has a good amount of that country's culture on it. So I'm not going to buy one that just says Paris. Like, that's super lame. I'm not going to buy one that's just the Eiffel Tower or just the French flag. I don't like doing that. I like to find something that has a couple of things that we actually did ourselves. Whoops. Or, you know, something that just screams that country. So when I show you guys the Belgian magnet and the Amsterdam magnet, I'm super excited to show you all those. Those, I think we also did a great job. Sometimes we wait. Sometimes we get to one souvenir shop and we're like, nothing here works. And so we keep looking until we find what we think is perfect. So that's just a little fun fact on how we do our souvenir shopping in other countries. But until next time, take it easy, stay grateful, and be joyful. Bye! Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Travel Tales. Head on over to whatisheybellsdoing.com/travel to find the resources mentioned in today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating on your favorite listening platform or write a review on Apple Podcasts. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on new episode releases. See you next time for another great adventure. Bye!